Hey everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Movies for Life. And welcome to this 1983 horror movie review as part of my overall 1980s horror movie series. So the movie we're going to take a look at today is actually one that I watched on YouTube twice, and I'll get more into why I watched it twice in a minute here. But that movie is Frightmare, also known as The Horror Star from 1983. Now, there's some question about what year this movie's actually from. Um, they actually have it as 1981 in Wikipedia. And they've also shown it as 1982 in certain places and 1983, which is what I'm going by because the list of horror movies for each year of the 80s, 1983 had this one listed. So, and obviously I already did 81 and 82 and didn't review Frightmare. So yeah, for those of you that are wondering, it might think, well, this is a 1981 movie or an 82 movie. It's 1981, 1982, 1983. It's kind of up in the air, but for the purposes of my review, it's 1983. So you might ask, why did I watch this movie twice? Um, Basically, it's because the first time I watched it off YouTube, and there's several different versions on YouTube. And the one that I watched the first time must have been like the made for TV version. Very grainy and very dark. You couldn't see anything. And so I thought that's what the movie was. So I wasn't all that impressed. But then when I watched other reviews, I saw people like showing different scenes from the movie, and it's like, well, wait a minute, mine was all dark, and these were like completely like clear and lit and cleaned up. So I said, there's got to be another version. So sure enough, I pulled up the other version on YouTube. I think it was actually under the Horror Star as opposed to Frightmare, and that one was crystal clear. I'm guessing that was probably the Blu-ray version or the definitely the unedited version because it has nudity, it has some gore in it, and all those types of things. So, anyway, to make a long story short, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Having never seen this movie before until the last 2 days, I've watched it twice. So, I'm pretty firm in my thoughts about it in this review. So, anyway, with that being said, Frightmare, also known as the Horror Star, or simply Horror Star, is a 1983 supernatural slasher film written and directed by Norman Thaddeus Vane. The film follows a group of drama students who decide to kidnap the corpse of a recently deceased horror movie star. By disrupting his tomb, they unwittingly release an ancient black magic that begins consuming them one by one. So, a group of drama students idolize their favorite horror film star, Conrad Ragzoff. In the beginning, Conrad is acting in a commercial for dentures, and the director stops the filming because he does not like Conrad's performance. While the director sits on the edge of a balcony, an angry Conrad pushes him off with his cane. Later, Conrad visits a school and talks about his performances, only to faint under excitement. One of the drama students, Meg, revives him. Later, as Conrad sits in his bed, his obese director, Wolfgang, visits him. After a long talk about his death arrangements, Conrad closes his eyes and tricks the director into believing he is dead. Then the director denounces him until Conrad springs and smothers him with a pillow. After Conrad dies, the 7 drama students, Meg, Saint, Bobo, Eve, Donna, and Oscar, and Stu, go to the cemetery after dark. They sneak into the tomb where Conrad's coffin resides. The lights turn on and they see a film of Conrad stating that he welcomes them into his tomb, unless, he says, they have broken in. Creeped out, Meg asks them not to take Conrad, but they do, and take him to an old mansion where they stay for the night. That night, Conrad's coffin explodes and he rises from the dead. Later, Oscar and Donna are having sex, but Donna says she is scared. Oscar goes to investigate and has his tongue ripped out by Conrad in the attic. Donna becomes worried and walks outside only to see Conrad, who uses black magic to set her on fire. So yeah, that's to set up the premise, the beginning of Frightmare, or the Horror Star. As far as the cast goes, we have Ferdy Mayne as Conrad Ragzoff, Luca Berkovic, Luca Berkovici as Saint, Nita Talbot as Mrs. Romer, Leon Askin as Wolfgang, Jennifer Starrett as Meg, and Jeffrey Combs. Yes, Jeffrey Combs in his film debut here as Stu. Um, so yeah, that's to set up the premise and the cast of the 1983 horror movie Frightmare. Um, like I said, I have to say the first time I watched this, probably because I couldn't see anything, and it seemed to kind of be edited a little bit from what other people were talking about in their reviews. I was kind of disappointed. I was like, this wasn't anything special. Then I watched it again, actually being able to see stuff. And of course, it is a low budget movie. I mean, that has to be said, but I enjoyed it much more the second time I watched it. Is it a great movie? No. But again, it kind of fits into that 80s cheese. And well, let's just go ahead and get into what I like about the movie because it's kind of a mixed bag for me. But I think I like it enough where I'll probably add it to my collection at some point. I'll probably get the Vinegar Syndrome Blu-ray at some point. I'm not saying I'm gonna rush out and get it tonight, but it's on my list. Let's put it that way. So, as far as things that I like about Frightmare, it has a very unique It's a very unique atmospheric movie combining gothic hammer horror aesthetics with modern 80s slasher tropes. That's kind of the best way to sum it up for me. So you have and bringing those two together in the 80s was kind of cool in a way. Um, you have the sort of the hammer horror Christopher Lee, which I think this character of Conrad Ragsoff is supposed to kind of be portraying like a Christopher Lee for Hammer horror films. You have that, but it's very gothic, that just like you'd see in a 70s, 60s, or 70s movie from Hammer horror. So you have that part of it coming into the 1980s with this drama group of 7 college students, and all the 80s slasher kind of tropes and things that go with it. That it makes for a very unique movie, and like I said, it's very atmospheric, which I really enjoy. It's got great atmosphere in this movie. And it makes for an interesting watch as a result of that balancing act that they do there. So that's the first thing. Then, of course, you got to talk about the performance by, I think his full name is Ferdinand Main, but Ferdy Main, who plays Conrad Ragsoff. I think he's really the standout here. The movie works as well as it does with his screen presence and performance. He's one of those actors that has a screen presence. Now I know he's playing a horror actor, so he's definitely hamming it up more than what I'm sure he usually does as an actor. Apparently he was in a lot of movies like before this. This was kind of the end of things, I think, for him, but he gives a great performance, man, because this is the kind of movie the lead character, the lead actor, had to ham it up because he was playing like a past horror star that's now still trying to hold on and is like in commercials and stuff. So yeah, I thought Ferdy Main did a fabulous job, and I don't think this movie works at all as well as it does if you don't have somebody of that ilk and somebody that can put that kind of performance on screen and play this character. It sounds easy, an actor playing an actor, but when you consider the differences in the actor that he was in 1981 or 82 or 83 compared to playing like a Hammer horror gothic like Dracula sort of actor, there's differences there, and it's not as easy as it sounds. So I thought he really stood out to me in a very positive way. Very good performance by him. You get a variety of kills here, different kills. Like a couple people, one character is set on fire, another person is actually like cremated. Well, they're still alive, that was towards the end. The one character gets a coffin, basically, like she's gets hit up against the wall with this floating coffin. Then you got a beheading. You've got a tongue pulled out. So there's a lot of variety here in terms of kills, and I thought they were good with good practical gore effects. It's not the goriest movie ever, but there is some blood and some gore here with like the severed head and the tongue and things like that. So those things stand out, and of course that's what a lot of people are going to come to this movie for: the kills and the potential gore that goes with it. I also thought that this was a really great setting. With the mansion, these drama students have this mansion, which, geez, I wish I could have gone to college where they went to college, because they got a pretty sweet setup here, these drama students. Not only do they have like this big mansion or this big house, they also have a vehicle that's called, what was the name of their group again? I guess it doesn't say here, does it? Well, anyway, they have the name of whatever their group is on this vehicle, this car that they have outside. It's just a really cool setup. But as far as like the setup, this mansion where most of the movie takes place, of course, where they're picked off one by one, most of them, and then also you have the cemetery and the cemetery and the mausoleum that a little bit of it takes place in towards the end. So I thought the setting was great. It really feeds into the atmosphere overall of the movie. So that was great. The cinematography in this movie is excellent, and I think the score in the movie is solid. You know, it's kind of it. This movie's interesting because for the most part they try to play it straight, even though there's a few, you can tell there's a couple of winks at the audience. But I thought the score was fitting for this movie. You know, it's not an overly scary score, but it kind of has that old Hammer horror kind of score vibes to it, if that makes any sense to anybody. But between the cinematography, the score, and the setting, it all adds to the atmosphere that this movie has. And like I said, I think the premise is very interesting as well. Anytime you have one of these, it's a little bit like Fright Night, although that was a horror host. This was actually a horror actor, and then you've got young people that sort of idolize them. And then just sort of those types of movies, we've seen them done before. Um, After this, certainly, it's just kind of a cool premise, you know. And then when that horror actor ends up passing away, and what these young people do to try to keep his, well, I don't know what you would call it, what they tried to do. It was pretty sick. But anyway, with that being said, those are my pros for Frightmare. As far as cons go, it's really the rest of the characters in the movie, aside from Ferdy Main. None of these other actors or actresses really, they're okay at best. But the characters are very all the characters in this movie, none of them are good or likable. Like they're all bad in one way or another. Starting with Ferdy Main as Conrad Ragzoff, because even when he's alive, he's obviously not a very good person. You know, killing people and stuff that he's mad at. Where was I going with this? No, but nobody's likable, so you don't have that emotional person, that emotional follower to attach yourself to as you're watching the movie, and that kind of lets it down a little bit more than if you had that person, because all the kids, the 7 drama students, aren't good people with what they do. His wife and like her like psychic that's with her, they're not good people, stealing the jewelry right off of him, and you know, the wife wishing him to get revenge. So nobody's good in this movie. Everybody's unlikable. Everybody's bad. And I think that kind of hurts the movie. But the characters, especially the young ones, of course, are throwaway characters like you get in most slasher movies. I don't think the pacing of this movie is very strong. There's definitely some slower parts midway through the movie that I could have had sped up a little bit. This movie's just under 90 minutes. I think it's 86 minutes, which is fine. But there were just a couple slower scenes that I noticed midway through the movie. The side story with the cops or slash investigator was really pointless, and it really doesn't go anywhere. I don't know if they were just trying to get if they had a different idea initially and then that got scrapped or something, but that really was pointless. Finally, the overall tone of the movie is kind of uneven with, like I said, obvious attempts at sort of lighter moments and humor. Some of the characters try to be funny, even like Conrad Ragzoff. But they still kind of play it. I don't want to say serious, but they play it straight, like they're really trying to scare you. At least that's the interpretation I got, and it kind of has mixed results. In other words, I think this movie has a good premise and it has some good pieces, but I don't think the execution works as well as it could have. But that being said, it's still a very watchable, fun movie that I plan to add in my collection. But yeah, if you've seen the movie, you kind of probably know what I'm talking about with the tone. Like, I didn't know whether to laugh. I mean, the movie's not scary, let me say that. But most 80s movies, you don't expect them to be scary. You're not going into it expecting to be, like, terrified. You're expecting to have a good time and be entertained. And certainly this movie does that. So overall, it was kind of tough. It's a mixed bag, but I'm going to give Frightmare a 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10 for Frightmare. You could do a lot worse. There's just some things I wish they would have done a little bit better to make this movie more of a 7 or an 8 out of 10 for me. But still, fair enough. 6 out of 10 for Frightmare from 1983. Go ahead and comment down below your guys' thoughts if you've seen this movie. Do you like it? Do you not? What would you rate it? Comment down below. Please like this video. Hit the little notification bell and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It would really help me out for the future content on my channel going forward. But with that being said, I hope you're enjoying this stroll down 1983 horror lane here and my overall 1980s horror movie series. Hope you're enjoying it. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay scared. Bye.